For years, we have looked at Volvo as being the safe manufacturer, the brand that takes comfort and luxury very seriously. When this generation XC90 first arrived at dealers, it was a statement to the Germans, such as the X5, the Audi Q7, and the Mercedes Benz GLE, because it told everybody that yes, the Swedes can make a vehicle that's extremely luxurious, very upscale, but also sophisticated. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the 2023 XC90, see how it compares to its closest rivals, and also see why, if you're looking for a very comfortable, family-friendly crossover, then maybe taking a look at the XC90 might be a great decision. Now, before we get in this video, I want to give a huge shout and thank you to the Patrick Motor Group and also Volvo Cars of Auburn in Auburn, Massachusetts, for allowing me to do this review. The link will be in the description below, so you can check out their extensive Volvo inventory. Also, before we get started, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so you're notified every time a new video goes live on the channel. And so, without wasting any further time, let's get right in this review. In the luxury crossover market, you get the impression that the only worthy options available to you come from Germany and possibly even Japan with the Lexus RX and Acura MDX. But a vehicle that often gets overlooked by journalists as being that viable alternative is the Volvo XC90. Quietly, the Swedes have gradually become a prominent player in the three-row crossover segment, and since this generation's inception, the XC90 has swayed Americans, not just by its reputable safety ratings, but with its high-end and premium design and also an interior that's tailored to those who prioritize comfort and quality. Starting off with pricing, the 2023 Volvo XC90 Plus comes in at just under $61,000. However, with our model being a B6, an additional $3,500 will be tacked on. To put that into perspective, that's around the same price as a base BMW X5 40i, and really does fall in line with its closest rivals, and in some cases undercuts competitors if you're comfortable opting for the B5 core model. While some non-German brands aren't quite up to par when it pertains to exterior and interior dimensions, it's the XC90 that likely is the best alternative to a Mercedes Benz GLE or Audi Q7, as its size is pretty much identical, and because of that, you have a legitimate three-row SUV. Whether you have intentions of doing some light off-roading or you live in colder regions of the US, the XC90 without air suspension will have a ground clearance just below 8.8 inches, which should be sufficient when going through unplowed roads during a storm. Where this generation for the XC90 completely changed the perception surrounding this brand late last decade was with its classy and upscale on-road demeanor. And with this refined and modern styling, it set the tone for the rest of the lineup. But more importantly, in a segment that's dominated by German manufacturers, Volvo's emphasis on class and sophistication really shined through the minute this XC90 first arrived at showrooms. The iconic Thor hammer LED headlights has become a signature look for a Volvo. And with the subtle chrome accents for the grille and also the lower portion of the front bumper, it's just enough to make this crossover have upscale qualities without taking away from the mature and reserved appearance. Moving over to the side profile, by opting for the Plus, the XC90 can be equipped with either 20-inch wheels or the 21-inch 5 V-spoke black diamond cut alloy wheels that are equipped on our model, which does give this crossover a striking road presence. While you'd think bigger tires would hinder or take away from the ride quality, the XC90 suspension can easily handle the imperfections and bumps in the road. However, if you're looking for the optimal amount of comfort, sticking with the 20s or the 19s that are standard for the core might be the better route. You'll have body color and power folding side mirrors with turn signal indicators to go along with blind spot detection for added safety. Then coming around to the back, traditional for the XC90, the LED taillights run vertically along the sides of the liftgate and rear window. Going unnoticed and not appreciated enough is that the body lines are very pronounced, giving this crossover some character rather than just blending in on the roadways. Keeping the rear fascia looking clean, the exhaust outlets are tucked beneath the bumper, which is refreshing to see in an era with brands designing vehicles with non-functional exhaust tips to appear sporty, when in reality they can look tacky and unfitting for the overall road presence. Under the hood, the XC90 B6 is powered by a 2-liter turbo and supercharged 4-cylinder engine that produces 295 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque, and is paired with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Standard for 2023, this powertrain is accompanied by a 48-volt mild hybrid system that aids in efficiency, and compared to past model years, the XC90 is a rather responsive crossover that doesn't lag or feel inadequate for a 3-row SUV in this segment. Surprisingly, the B6's 0 to 60 times come in at 6.4 seconds, which isn't a barnstormer by any means. However, it will be a half second faster than a Mercedes Benz GLE 350, and marginally quicker than a 4-cylinder powered Audi Q7. Also made standard for 2023, all XC90s will be equipped with all-wheel drive to help tackle winter road conditions, whereas some rivals offer this drivetrain as an option. For fuel economy, you're looking at right around 20 miles per gallon in the city, and 26 miles per gallon on the highway. Stepping inside, you're greeted by power adjustable and heated leather trimmed seats for both the driver and passenger, with the driver's side having memory seat functionality for added convenience. Where the Swedes excel is with their welcoming driving environments that aren't overly styled or unnecessarily complicated, as Volvo does prioritize a cabin that's intuitive and accommodating. However, with that said, you will receive a full digital gauge cluster, which isn't as in-depth as what we see from Audi and Mercedes Benz, and when installed, your navigation map will pop up here so you won't have to look over to the infotainment system. The heated leather-wrapped steering wheel does have a high-quality feel, and not something you typically expect from Volvo. The grips on the wheel are aggressive and firm to inspire a level of confidence when cornering. Then moving over to the infotainment system, you'll have a 9-inch touchscreen, and despite moving to a Google-based user interface with Google Maps and Google Assistant, Volvo does offer Apple CarPlay compatibility for 2023 models. Sticking to the sense of minimalism, there's not a lot of buttons found on the dashboard, although you have a physical dial for the volume and also the home screen button. From this screen, you can access driver assistance features, customize your driving experience, and you can also navigate your way through the onboard owner's manual. As we've seen in prior years with Volvo vehicles, all your climate controls can be adjusted here, including the 3-level heated seats and heated steering wheel. By opting for the Plush trim, you'll receive a 360-degree top view camera to provide better visibility when parking, but there'll also be front and side angles to ensure you don't curb the wheels or get yourself into trouble when parallel parking. Returning to the row of buttons below the head unit, to the right, with one simple press, the glove box will open automatically, so if you need to grab your registration or even your gloves and winter hat, you don't need to reach over when driving. Taking a look at the center console, once again very simple, as all you have besides the gear shifter and start-stop button will be the electric parking brake and auto hold. For the center storage compartment, you'll have plenty of room for smaller items, and rounding out the front seating area, above will be a panoramic moonroof to let in some natural light to the interior. Now moving on to the second row, we're going to start off on the passenger side. And this seat has been adjusted all the way back and is somewhat on a recline, and as you can tell, I'm rather squished, but I'm doing this for demonstrational purposes because these seats slide on rails, so you can move them forwards and backwards to give the third row passengers more legroom, but also if someone on the height of 6 feet tall is sitting in front of you, you can just relax and enjoy the driving experience. On top of that, these second row seats do recline a bit by about 10 degrees, so if you are going on that longer road trip with the family, you can sit back here and have no care in the world. Also, if you are an average size adult, you don't need to worry about headroom because there's plenty of it. Also, of course, when you can recline, that gives you more space as well. But also, there's plenty of legroom, and shoulder room is more than abundant with this vehicle being rather wide. Then moving over to the center seat, There are some great placements for my feet. The center hump is somewhat aggressive. However, because the XC90 is large, you can definitely accommodate that third person in the second row. And that right there is why I think the XC90 is the pick in the lineup, even though it's the most expensive crossover for Volvo. It's just one step above the XC60. But also when you compare this to the BMW X5, the Mercedes Benz GLE, and also the Audi Q7, this is certainly on par with them. And I think that if you are looking for that family-friendly crossover, the XC90 should definitely be on your list of considerations. Then on the driver's side, this seat is adjusted to someone of my height, around 5'5", and I have a lot of legroom here. In fact, I wouldn't be complaining at all. But I do want to recline one more time to give myself a bit more comfort. Also back here, you do have dual zone climate control to go along with heated outboard seats, 2 rear air vents, and also 2 USB-C inputs. And rounding out the second row seating area, you do get a center armrest with 2 cup holders. And then taking a look at the third row seating area, it is going to be somewhat tight for average size adults, but if you do have smaller kids, they should be able to sit back there pretty comfortably. Now coming around to the back, you're going to receive a power liftgate. And inside, behind the third row seats, you're looking at right around 15.8 cubic feet of room, which will outclass the Genesis GV80. Now you're probably wondering, what can I fit back here if I have my kids in the third row? Well, I was able to fit all my camera gear, no problem. So that's 3 bags of camera gear, a gimbal box, and a tripod, and also the mats to this Volvo XC90. Now, for some 3-row crossovers that are not full-size SUVs, the cargo area behind the third row seats really isn't that useful. But I think if you are going on a grocery run or running a few errands, you can definitely fit all your items back here for sure. Then with the third row seats folded, you're looking at right around 41.8 cubic feet, which will actually outclass the BMW X5. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is that the X5 doesn't come standard with a third row, so right then and there, the XC90 is already more practical and family-friendly, but also when the third row seats are folded, it's more spacious as well. And then finally, with the second row seats folded, you're looking at right around 85.7 cubic feet. So you have a lot of space to work with this vehicle, whether you do have your kids in the second and third row, or maybe you're just moving some boxes around. You're going to have all the space necessary when you are going on that road trip with the family. I think when the third row seats are folded, you can probably fit 7, 8, possibly 9 bags of luggage, if not more. So I think that's one of the reasons why the Volvo XC90 has really become the vehicle of choice for a lot of American families. But then surprisingly, beneath the floor mat, you are going to find a spare tire. That is very rare right now in the automotive world, where a lot of brands are moving away from that. They'll just give you a fix-a-flat kit. But Volvo gives you that spare tire, so if you do encounter a flat on your road trips or travels, you can fix that and be back on the road. Also, while not being installed on this model today, we do have the indentations for the rear cargo cover, which will keep all your valuable items out of sight. So if you are like me and you have camera gear or anything else of value, you can leave them back here and have that peace of mind knowing that no one will be able to peek in and steal what you have. And then once you're done, just press the button and the liftgate will close automatically. Out of all the brands and manufacturers in this segment and market, it's Volvo that's throwing no curveballs. In fact, you know exactly what to expect the minute you step inside and get behind the wheel for the very first time. In 2022 and heading into 2023, everything is about aggressive driving dynamics, heavy steering, also fast 0 to 60 times. And yet, Volvo has decided to not appeal to people who are looking for that. And it hasn't hurt them in any way, shape, or form. Volvo is all about being luxurious, upscale, sophisticated, but also being safe as well. A vehicle that is very comfortable and conducive for you and your family. Yet, even though it doesn't have any athletic attributes, it's a crossover that shouldn't be slept on. Steering is going to be very light, not giving you a lot of feedback, especially on back roads like this or in sharp corners like I'm on right now. However, you can go into the driving settings and add some firmness to the steering feel. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to feel like a BMW X5 or even an Alfa Romeo Stelvio in that way. However, you are going to have some confidence heading into the corners on the back roads because despite the higher ground clearance, the XC90 does feel very well planted on the roads. So let's get on the highway here. Let's see what the B6 is made of. Already at 60. That's really impressive. Everyone wants to talk about how Volvo isn't a performance brand and that maybe they're not the best option if you're looking for aggressive driving dynamics. Yet if you're somebody that just wants to have a fun daily driver, one that also gives you the interior quality but also the creature comforts, the XC90 is certainly that crossover. What's really impressive here is that off the line, you do get a good acceleration. And again, we're not driving the T8 today. This is a B6. And having the 48-volt mild hybrid system, I have noticed, really has helped this crossover compared to prior model years, where the gear shifts are very crisp and smooth. And really just all around, it's a nice, very high quality and refined vehicle that I think does quite well in this segment when you are comparing it to the X5 or even the Genesis GV80. Nice brake feel, very responsive. What I also really like about this vehicle as well is that the suspension is very plush and very forgiving. When you go over the bumps and imperfections, you don't even feel them at all. It's as if they don't even exist on the roadways, which is perfect for people like us up here in New England, where we have notoriously bad roads due to the winters that we have up here. And that, I think, really adds to the quality, but also just the fact that Volvo really should be considered a upscale manufacturer, especially for this particular segment. What I also like too is that the XC90 feels very maneuverable for its size. When you compare this to the Mercedes Benz GLE, the GLE is like a tank. It does feel very big when you are behind the wheel. Whereas this, you can corner very nicely. It also does feel rather nimble despite the fact that it's not really athletic, but it is a crossover that can get out of its own way and doesn't feel too heavy on the roads. Now, when it comes to front vision, you have plenty of it. A-pillars are somewhat aggressive, but they don't really create a blind spot when you are approaching an intersection. Then looking out your side mirrors, of course, with this being a Volvo, they are rather big, and you can see everything in your blind spots, and of course we have the blind spot detection on the mirrors. And then looking out back, you can see everything behind you, even with the headrest in the way. You can fold them as well for better visibility, which is really great to see. What I also like too is that when it comes to the seating position, you do sit pretty high up in this vehicle. You don't have any blind spots in front of you since the hood doesn't stick that far out. Also, you do sit pretty high up as well, so you have a nice commanding feel and presence over the roads. Then when it comes to shoulder room, you have plenty of it. This vehicle is very nice and spacious for the interior, whether you are sitting up front in the second row or even in the third row, although I think for the third row, you're just going to have smaller kids back there. But second row seating area is more than enough and more than abundant when it comes to that space. Another thing too, which is not much of a surprise to me, having owned a Volvo in the past, is just how quiet the interior is. There's not a lot of road noise, but also the sound deadening, I think, is a little bit better than some of the competitors out there in this price range. When it pertains to seating comfort, they're not aggressively bolstered. However, they provide a lot of support and a lot of cushioning. I've always felt that Volvo was a class leader when it comes to just how comfortable their upholstery really is. I've always felt that Volvo should have made furniture, and if they want to maybe work with IKEA, I'd be the first one to line up, because with a couch or even just a chair to sit in when I'm working at my desk, I would never leave that chair. So all in all, after this quick test drive, I really like what the Volvo XC90 is offering to consumers. It's not the flashiest or sexiest option out there. I think that's one of the reasons why it does get overlooked by the BMW X5, Audi Q7, and Mercedes Benz GLE. However, Americans understand what Volvo is all about. It's a safe brand, it's a safe manufacturer, and actually the XC90 is one of the safest vehicles you can buy in any segment and any price range. And that's really important for a lot of buyers who have families. So I think ultimately, if you are looking at buying a vehicle in this price range at around $60,000, you're not looking for aggressive driving dynamics, you just want something that's really comfortable, upscale, and premium, while also having some modern day technology. I think that's where the Volvo XC90 is at its best. It's an all-around great crossover. It's not going to wow you when it comes to the on-road performance, but I think it will certainly impress you when it comes to its ride comfort as you go over the bumps and imperfections, as you drive on long journeys across the country, or maybe you're going to the mountains to ski and snowboard this winter. This is a vehicle you want to do that in, especially since you have all-wheel drive, which comes standard on this model. And while Volvo focuses on the things that doesn't really have a lot of sex appeal, it's the aspects that buyers are looking for in their next daily driver, and that's why I feel the Volvo XC90 is still one of the great options out there, even though it is getting up there in age. So to wrap up my time with the 2023 Volvo XC90, what are my final thoughts and takeaways for this three-row crossover? When you take a look at this segment in general, there's a few vehicles that come to mind that really set the tone in other areas besides being sporty and athletic. And for the Volvo XC90, when it pertains to interior quality, comfort, refinement, and overall safety, that's where the XC90 in my mind is a class leader, because one, the list of safety features, that's all standard. But also the interior spacing, where you actually can have kids in the third row, but also use the space behind the third row seats for your groceries or luggage. But then also when you get behind the wheel and you start interacting with the technology, you're not bombarded with a massive infotainment system. Of course, you do have a full digital gauge cluster, which is really nice to see in this market and for the XC90, but you don't feel as though that the technology is overriding your experience. And that's one thing I like about Volvo, is that they stick to being classy and sophisticated, while also at the same time being somewhat minimalistic. And I think that what Volvo is giving you here, even though this generation is likely on the way out very soon, it's still a great three-row crossover for you and your family, but also it's a practical daily driver that some brands and some manufacturers are just not offering right now, especially at this price range, because it does undercut the BMW X5, which doesn't give you a third row standard. Volvo knows who their customers are. They also know who they're trying to appeal to. And because of that, they've cornered the market with a very unique crossover that's for a very specific person. So if you don't really care about having the most aggressive driving dynamics and you're looking for a crossover at around $60,000, I think the Volvo XC90 is certainly worth taking a look at, but also I think it's one of the best vehicles right now in this market. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more. Also make sure to follow me on Instagram at Boston Autoblog so you can see what I'm up to and what vehicles I'll be featuring in the future. And I will see you guys next time.